We've talked a lot about content and about localization, about really leveraging your content machine and getting your content optimized. That's what this next session is all about. To chair it, please welcome back the presenter from RTHK and the CEO of Lightning International from Hong Kong, James Ross.
Thank you very much, Paul. Nice to be back here. And I'd like to bring on stage my two panelists, Justine Kelly from ABC Radio Australia, and Rizal Sahini, who is Head of Strategy from Astro Audio. Guys, come and join me here on the stage. So what we're going to talk about is really making the most of what you have, particularly focused around talent. But before we get into that, let's find a little bit more about what you guys do and the background. Justine, ABC Radio Australia, tell us what you do for Radio Australia and a little bit more about the service. I think most people know of the service, but tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so my title is the Manager of Audio Output and Strategy for ABC International. If you think of ABC International a little bit like the BBC World Service, but on a really tiny budget and super, super small, that's what we are. So we create digital TV, audio content for the world, but mostly our focus is on Asia and the Pacific. And my key focus over the last couple of years has been ABC Radio Australia, which is our international broadcast network. We broadcast right across the Pacific and also to Timor-Leste.
Okay, good, great. Welcome, Justine. Rizal, tell us about what you get up to at Astro. You have 13 radio stations as part of the group, right?
Yes, correct. We have 13 radio stations, multiple languages. We have in Bahasa Malaysia, we have in English, we have in Chinese, which is Mandarin particularly, and we have the Tamil language. And we also have 2 stations who are based in East Malaysia, where the dialects are totally different. They speak Bahasa, but it's not their main language. They have their own languages and their own, even if it's Bahasa, it's their own dialects. So, yeah, we have 13 radio stations. We broadcast throughout the whole of Malaysia. Of course, we also have it on our applications on the phone. And yeah, since we are talking about talents, it's 13 different talents.
and your role as Head of Strategy?
Yeah, strategy in the sense where, of course, it's all about revenue. So if you are talking about content, if you're talking about talent, we have to make sure that all this will translate back to revenue.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
I feel like it's the complete opposite to me.
Yeah, you're on the public broadcast side, a
That's
little
it.
bit different, but nevertheless, you need talent to develop your audiences in the similar kind of way. Well, we're going to focus particularly on talent. We might stray into some other areas as well as we go along. You've got a few slides to show us, Justine, about some of the things to do with talent for Radio Australia. Do you want to just skim through those slides for us?
I'll give you a bit of background first. So, as I was saying,
could we have the PowerPoint up on the screen, please? Is that possible? Thanks.
We, going back into the 2010s, late 2010s, so we're federally, the government provides our funding, and in the late 2010s, the then federal government stripped a lot of the money out of ABC International. What that meant for ABC Radio Australia is that we were sort of really decimated.
Sure.
We relied on the ABC's domestic networks for our content. That was going across the Pacific. So as you can imagine, not a great service to those audiences across the Pacific. Fast forward many years to about 3 years ago, the government refunded ABC International, and then what that meant for Radio Australia was that I was brought on to rebuild the network. And I was given a gift, which is a blank slate, a mandate to rebuild the station, and a budget to do that.
Well, that's quite unusual to get that blank slate, right?
So good, so exciting. And what that meant is, so for those of you who work in radio and you manage stations, you kind of inherit a station, you inherit the time slots, you inherit the type of people you need to get into those time slots. Like everything is sort of built around these very long established ways of doing things and making the programs. So, and I just needed to totally rethink that. And there were a few reasons for that. It was sort of that going back to the making the most of what you've got thing. But there were two things that I did that were quite, I think, different to the way that we would normally cast or recruit for radio programs. The first thing that I did was I found amazing talent and I built the shows around them and their skill set and their expertise and their interests. One of the things I really needed to do for Radio Australia was to have people in the roles on air who had deep connections to the Pacific. So they were either born in the Pacific or they were part of the large diaspora in Australia, Pacific diaspora in Australia. And there actually weren't very many of them, sadly, working in the media in Australia, but there were a few really great ones, and I thought, I want that one and that one and that one. People, shouldn't call them thems.
But that means you have to
people,
fine-tune it for those people, right?
Yeah, I want those people, and I'm going to pitch to them, like, what is the show that you want to make for us and for your people in the Pacific? And the other thing that I did was, I'm just checking, I took a punt with untested people, which is both scary and some would say quite stupid and silly, and not really the best way to go if you're trying to recruit for an international broadcaster. But I kind of had to. And I'll talk a little bit about both of those two things in a sec. So one of the people that I hunted down was this fellow, and his name's Hau Letakafu. He's a Tongan Australian. He's sort of referred to as a bit of the grandfather, the great uncle of hip hop in Australia. He, back 20 or so years ago, won an ARIA, which is a big music award in Australia, and he had presented on Triple J, which is the ABC's youth network, for a number of years, and he just left Triple J, moving on to Double J, which is sort of the more grown-up version of Triple J in Australia. And so I pitched to him, what's the show that you want to do? And he said, I grew up going to house parties with my relatives, and that's what people across the Pacific do. There's people of all generations that go to a house party. They play music. All the people get to choose the music, and it's just great. And so he said, I want to do a show called In the Farley, and I said, that is fantastic, because I knew I needed music programs. And so In the Farley was born, centred around him.
What does Farley mean?
Oh, sorry. Farley is a word in Polynesia of house. So it's in the house. And so a house party in the Farley, yeah. The next person that I really wanted to get onto the network was Sosafina Fu'umoli. She had radio experience as well, but she's a fantastic music journalist, really well-respected music journalist in Australia. And again, pitched to her, what's the show that you would want to do if you came and worked on Radio Australia? And she said, I want to do On the Record. It's a deep dive interview, it's an hour-long show, one person per show, one musician, one artist, and they come and they play their music and they do a deep dive on their music, but the influences. And so music being so important in the Pacific. So that was the second person that I got. And the third, Bobby McCumber. Again, she was a radio broadcaster in Melbourne. She had just moved to Adelaide, which is some distance away from where I am, but she didn't have any work, but she had great skills as a radio presenter. And again, what do you want to do, Bobby? What is it that you love doing? She's got the gift of the gab. She can talk to anybody. I want to do an interview show with people in the Pacific and in the diaspora doing incredible things. So Stories from the Pacific was born. Now, all of these shows are actually really great. And to be honest, if I was going to create programs for the network, this is kind of what I would be doing anyway. But they came up with them. And I think the why this strategy works is because it's lean-in radio. We were talking yesterday about that, the connection that you form, the passion that they bring to the role. and the expertise and the depth of knowledge is a much better outcome for the audience.
Well, passion is that great word, isn't it, that
Yeah.
drives these things. And if they do have the passion, then that's obviously going to transfer and translate into the programming
And
itself.
it really does. And as I was saying, it's really like, it's an intimate kind of experience listening to them. And so that was the one thing. That was one of my techniques that, or strategies that I put into force. The other was plucking people off the street, sort of, not really. Right?
New talent we're talking
I targeted new talent, but you wouldn't usually put an untested presenter onto any radio station, let alone an international one with the importance. So, but I targeted a few people who I thought were smart, had talent, could do the job, and I invested in them. So this is Jacob McQuire. He was brought on to present our Nija Daily morning program. Wendy Mockey is a really well-known actor.
Sorry, Nija Daily, is that what is it, Nija?
Nija is short for Polynesia, Melanesia,
okay. Got it.
Micronesia, and many people from across the Pacific use that word in their daily life, like, not Nija, oh, he's very Nesian. So, so Nija Daily, which is our daily morning program, which he co-presents with someone else. But he had come from like a news radio background, so he had a little bit of experience, but reading a script, really different to actually speaking on the radio every day. But we've jumped in with him. Wendy Mockey is a Papua New Guinean-born, now Australian-based actor, playwright, artist, incredibly talented, as you can tell, and I just thought, and an amazing voice, and just really nice person as well, super smart, and I thought, great, let's get her on. We developed her up when Bobby went on maternity leave to present stories from the Pacific, and these two guys, Sam Wykes and Tinirao Arona. Sam was a rugby union player, as you can probably tell from his height, and Tinirao Arona was a rugby league player. They're both retired from sport now. Rugby league is, for those who aren't... rugby union you probably would know, it's a bit more of a world game, but rugby league is a massive football code in Australia, played by many people. And so in the Pacific, rugby union and rugby league are massive sports, and they were friends, and they'd come on to do, to ABC Sport to do the odd, guest appearance and that sort of thing. So we grabbed them and we developed them up as well, and they do Nesian footy, which is a really twice a week program, super popular, audience loves them. It's been those three shows, and those presenters have been huge successes for us. But I would say, though, that, we put time and money and effort into developing the untested talent. We didn't just throw them on air and let's sink or swim and see how it goes. We spent many hours in a studio giving them that craft training on how to be a presenter. We did really intensive tech, because our presenters all do their own paneling.
Sure.
And so we gave them very intensive and supported tech training. And, even when they went to air, there was a tech with them for a good couple of weeks to make sure that, the wheels didn't fall off. I don't know what the term is in all organisations, but we call them air checks. Is it the same?
Same.
Yeah. So I just did air checks, particularly for those daily programs, for the first month every day, and not in a overbearing, bad, feedback, just in a really supportive way. So lots and lots of air checking, and then we gave those untested people that space to kind of muck it up every now and then, and really support them through that, rather than, I think. You know what it's like. Sometimes if you fail once, then that's kind of it in some organisations. And, I would expect more of my star talent that come in who are very experienced, but with these untested people.
I think it is a challenge bringing in untested people. At RTHK in Hong Kong, we have a financial show that I host on a couple of mornings a week, but for various reasons I'm not hosting it the whole week, and we wanted to bring some other people in. And so in a way, we went through the same process because we could find people that had financial knowledge, but how do you find people that have financial knowledge and can then be a broadcaster? And that in a similar way is a challenge. You know, your folks, maybe they know about the music, maybe they know about rugby, maybe they have connections, whatever, but then they need to be trained in how to convert that into an on-air use.
Yep.
So I think we all feel the pain. And I'm sure, Rizal, that you've also felt that that's an issue across your 13 stations. You know, finding talent is tough, right?
Yeah.
Do you bring on untested talent?
Actually, we don't bring on air untested talent. What we do is once we identify them, we get them to do practice runs because they are backup studios that we have in S-Room. We get them to do practice runs. Once they have done the practice runs, they go over the weekends. They go on air over the weekends because normally the main announcers will take the weekends off, so they will go on air. Then we will air check, and until they get it right. If they can move to the main time belts, we'll move them. And yes, it's 13 radio stations. We have to do it for all. And nowadays, talents are being churned, like that. So we have to keep on train them. We bring them to our weekend shows, and sometimes even when they're on the main time belts, they don't get it right still. So maybe we pull them back to the weekend shows because we need to make sure that it works because it's our time invested in training them. So yeah.
And frankly, you don't want to train them and then they go off and work for somebody else. That's one of the big challenges that we have, especially in a competitive environment.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, because when you do that, I mean, it happens, and when that happens, it really tests. It will really test your mental, your physical, or even yourself, your patience, because you train this person, and then the competitor sees it, and you know what? Let me take you, but. You know what? It's a business. It's a job. If the offer is good, if we cannot counter offer, then look, that's the best place for you to go. Then we just have to do it one more time. Training. I guess that's a job then.
I mean, you've already identified you've got various language services that you do, across Malaysia. You've got many different languages, and perhaps in a similar way, you face some of the challenges that Justine faces. Do you find it's easier to hire for some of the languages than for other languages? What are the differences between them? You've got Chinese, you've got English, you've got Tamil, you've got Malay, and you've got the dialects, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not. It's just about the same. But my native language is a Malay language, so it's easier for me to find somebody in the Malay language. I can speak, whatever that they want to talk about. I can understand it easily. But for the other languages, of course, we have other people who are more into the language, can understand the language better. They are the ones who are handling that. But from my point of view, or from the ones that we don't understand the language, it's more of their persona, how they present themselves, even their voice projections, even when they talk on air. How clear is their voice? How clear are their words? So that's what we look at. So yeah, it's not easy because it's 13 radio stations. Everything is just times by 13. So I'm very happy that we have an army of those who are willing to help to find new talents. Because I know the managers are always looking at TikTok. They're always looking at Instagram, Facebook, trying to find these new talents. They may be good on TikTok, so we try them out. If they're good, they go on air. If not, then we just try someone else. I mean, I would love to try that street thing. Just go on and it is kind of scary.
Randomly pick somebody. Yes.
Yeah, but it's actually you open up your mind to it. It's mind opening, because you don't really see all these talents. They may not be on TikTok. They may not be on Facebook, Instagram. They just might be somebody who's just standing there, but they can talk. And you can even see, for example, in this conference, you might be seeing somebody there, just talking to them, and they can really talk, but they are not speakers for today. They're just sitting down taking notes. Yeah. But then, hey, you know what? I think you have a talent for this. Why don't you give it a shot? I think it's something
that's what I found as well. That it felt scary and taking a punt, but actually, if you pick someone who is curious and is smart and can actually string a sentence together, then it's sometimes worth having that jump in and have great personality. Like the four people that I was telling you about, they are just such great personalities, and they're now really much loved presenters on the network.
So once you've got the talent on the network, then of course the next challenge is how do you retain them? How do you develop them? How do you keep them there? What are the challenges that you both face for that? Maybe Rizal, you've got a range of talent that's there, and what are the
so
sort of
many.
things?
Like, how many presenters have you got that you're trying to retain? Or
we have about 50, 60 talents, I think.
I feel tired.
I think so. About 50 to 60 talents. The main challenge is to know where to draw the line between being a manager and being their friend. Because talents being talents, like you mentioned just now, they can be poached by anyone easily. And if the offer is great, they will just go. But then again, is the loyalty that you need to create, is the trust that you need to create. That is something that you really have to have in you, and they must see that in you as well. But then again, you also have to keep that authority figure, because these guys are doing the job for you. You need to guide them as well. There are moments where they cannot accept what you're trying to say to them, even especially when in HX, when you try to correct them, when you try to say, hey, you know what, this is my feedback, so and so and so.
And they'll argue with you, right?
Yeah, they will argue. So that's where you really need to draw the line. I mean, it's like raising kids. So,
yeah, I mean, it is a difficult relationship, manager and talent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not easy, because I have had talents who disagree with me, and they jump on to the next ship, whatever is there. I mean, but when I told my managers, my superiors, I said, look, we've done what we can. We got data, we've done our checks, we got our reports. But if this person decides to go somewhere else, we can't stop them.
Yeah, I mean, and that relationship is super important, though, as you say, boss, friend, because they, of course, most talent will expect you to have heard their latest show, won't they? And they'll come into the office, or you'll see them, and they'll almost want you to pat them on the back or say, "Oh, that was a great piece," and that's important to keep them in place.
Pretty hard,
you find
with
that,
50 presenters
Justine?
Too. Yeah, I do. I think my approach to retention of talent and having a really good working relationship is building that trust. Like, I've been air checked before myself, and once that trust is broken, and once you've cried yourself to sleep at night because of the bad feedback that you got, it's really hard to get that back. So I think my approach as a manager has always been to, really have that level of trust with the presenter. And we were talking before this session about you almost become a psych in some ways to lots of people. Like you're a manager, and you're telling people what you need to get done for the network to run and for the program to be good and all of those things. But you're also kind of taking on like quite a caring and nurturing role with your key talent on air. I'm lucky that I've got an amazing content director who is a Samoan Australian woman who's got the most incredible ears. That will make sense. She's got great ears for radio, and she's around my age. There's a thing with in the Pacific as well of this great respect for your elders. And I got called elder one day, and I just was like, what? No, that can't be possible. But actually, that's, for my staff, that's kind of what she and I are. We're aunties in some way.
Well, and of course, you bring that experience, you bring that knowledge
and
of
age,
how it's done.
Bring the age.
But people do respect that. I think, people do respect experience and age.
Especially my team, they really do. But again, it is this thing of building that trust in the air checks. And
what are the biggest problems that you faced? Or are there any examples of kind of problems that you face in managing the talent, in your team?
So one of the I was talking about the gift of the blank slate and the building the station and building the team, and that is that the person who's been on staff longest has been there for 3 years. And that is another gift, having a really fresh and eager team. So I think some of the problems that I had in previous roles where I've been a manager, where people are jaded and they're over it, and you're trying to find ways of bringing the spark back, bringing that passion back for them. I haven't had that challenge. I think the challenge is more around the grind, that daily grind or the weekly grind, and trying to support people through that grind. And you would know yourself, for us anyway, we hit about October. In fact, I'll probably get back from this conference, and I could always say I could walk in the door to work, and I go, today's the day. Today's the day where everyone's hit the wall all at the same time, and we're close to Christmas and our big Christmas break, but we're not close enough, and people don't think they can make it. So I think that's one of my big challenges.
Sure.
And the other one is just because I have some people on the team who are really new, still, like they're in the beginning phases of their career, and that is around just that craft. The craft of being a great radio presenter, and remembering who you're talking to, and that's one, you're talking to a person, you're not talking to this broad audience, because as soon as you're talking to the broad audience, it's not as intimate.
The one-to-one relationship with the listener, you mean?
That's
yes,
right.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 50, 60 different on-air presenters, talent, Rizal, I'm sure you've got problems that come up, and perhaps your talent is a little bit more incumbent. They've probably been there longer. Justine's talent, I think, is relatively new, 2-3 years old, but some of yours have been on much longer, right, on the stations.
The one thing that when they say to us as managers that they really dread us is, this is not in my contract. That line, we'll be like, oh, you know what? They are not wrong. Because when it comes to events, when it comes to posting stuff on social media, when it comes to attending radio events and all, yes, we put it in the contract how many events you need to go to, so and so and so. But sometimes, for example, last month we did a marketing conference throughout the whole of Malaysia, just trying to get the clients to buy into the radio stations, buy airtime. We present to them the packages that we have. So we invite the talents to come. Some of them are not in the capital city itself. It's, maybe it's 3 hours north, 3 hours south of the Peninsula Malaysia, or across the sea to Sabah and Sarawak. So we invited them. We say, hey, can you come to this event just to speak about 5 minutes about why they should sponsor your station and all. And that is not in the contract. That is basically, we're asking them a favor to help us out in terms of revenue, and of course to get their shift sponsored, their show sponsored. Sometimes it's a bit tough for us because they say, hey, it's not in my contract. But then again, it's somewhat of a grey area.
But if the show doesn't get sponsored, then it's kind of also in their interest, isn't it? So that's kind of a balance, isn't it?
But because the thing is, talents being talents, some of them may see it, some of them may not see it. But the thing is, that's where our skills come in to make sure we convince them this is how it's going to be done, this is how it's going to benefit you, so and so and so that once they see it, they will understand. Okay, I see you, I see where you're getting at. I understand this. Okay, I'll do it. Sometimes they say, okay, I'll do it for you. When they say that, we'll be like, okay, it's for the station. When you do it for me, it puts kind of a pressure.
A personal favor almost.
Yeah. So it gives you a pressure where, okay, I need to make sure that this works for them. So again, when it comes to the point before, which is the trust that we build in them, and knowing where to draw the line. So these are the kind of things that we go through.
So do you find there's a difference between, if you like, freelance talent and staff talent? Because obviously, if you're paying someone a full-time wage and they're there, full 40 hours a week or whatever the number is, you can ask them to do many more things really within that time. But if you're paying someone on a shift-by-shift basis, freelance or per day or something, maybe it's a little bit more difficult. I mean, do you see those differences?
Yes. Last year I was working with a radio station with staff talents, where if you ask them to jump, they will ask how high. Like you said just now, I mean, they will just do whatever because they need to do that. But now I'm with a station with an organization that has all contracted talents, freelance talents. So yes, it's a bit tough, but you really need to know. It really puts your managerial skills into play. You really need to know. Okay, if let's say your credit with the events with this talent, it's over, it's finished. So how do you get these people to actually, or to them to actually join? So you have to somewhat, again, convince them, or tell the management, look, I really need to do this and so and so, and I need this talent to come with us because it will bring certain benefits. If let's say we have to come up with a token fee, we have to go put that in, because freelance talents, it's their job. This is their job. This is their business. So if you're asking more time from them, it's actually their time. Their time is literally money.
Well, they can't do other jobs, I suppose. Exactly. Is their argument, right?
So you have to be fair to that. You really have to be fair. You really have to know what is the freelance talent or staff talent, and you really have to pick and choose. If you really need to pull your card, where I need you to come to this event, you really have to pull that card and choose it wisely.
Yeah.
You may only get 1 or 2 trump cards, that's it.
Is this the kind of challenge that you have? Do you have staff? Do you have freelance? How do you generally work with your talent,
We have
Justine?
a mix of different. We have on-staff people, and then we have contractor, like the Tindirao and Sam, the footballers. They're contracts presenters. But I was thinking when you were talking then about, you know, that tricky thing around retention of your stars, and you were talking earlier about, you know, training up people and then leaving. And one of the things that that I do a bit to try and you know, keep the satisfaction levels high is when opportunities come up, I will push them forward for those opportunities. So, I mean, opportunities in other teams, or one of our presenters who works with on Nisha Daily with Jacob, who I showed you earlier on, was just recently offered a spot on the TV show, That Pacific Sports Show, which was going up to Papua New Guinea, and it was going to take him off air for a whole week, which isn't great. But we've got another presenter there, so it's like, go for it. You should do this. This will be really great for your career. So
well, it will presumably also help your station as well, because it kind of lifts the profile, right?
That's it, yeah, that's it. But there's things like that come up. The ABC, it's a big organisation, so there's often training things that come up, or training courses that come up that you think, right, it's a bit of a pain for me to have to backfill you or not have you on air. But I make those things happen in a way that probably, when I've managed other teams, I'd like go, roll my eyes, nah, I can't do it. But it really helps with that star retention.
Well, the one thing with talent, there's never a dull moment, is there? There's always a surprise around the corner. You never know what they're going to say.
Yeah, but if you can
either
make
on air or off.
That's it. But if you can make the job really appealing to them and continue that approach, I think that's how I look at it. Give them the opportunities.
Rizal, what about high-profile talent? You know, generally on radio, we often have our high-profile talent on breakfast shows, but in a way, they come in a different mold, don't they, than some of the, if you like, regular talent. I don't want to do the other talent down, but there are often sort of high-profile talent. Do they give you different problems to manage? You know, how do you handle those kind of things?
Well,
because they're also often larger-than-life characters as well.
Yes. Okay, for high-profile talents, the thing that we always, not to say argue, but we always debate is whenever they have to do something for the station. They are high-profile talents. They have something to do for the station. Sometimes they can reject. When they reject it, we have to convince them why they shouldn't reject it. But if, let's say, our points are not strong enough, and you see that, you know, if they were to reject this, it's fine, then it's okay, never mind, you don't have to go. But sometimes it is very helpful if they were to be there. Because high-profile talents, when they go for events, the listeners or the fans will just be there. They will just fill up the area, or the audience will just fill with their fans, and the event is very good for you. But when they want to come, they, of course, like I said, high-profile talents, they are contracted workers, it's their freelance, it's their business. We have to give them a certain amount of money that really entices them to actually come. But if the money is not good enough, but you really need to be there, that's where, for me, I just put my strategic thinking skills, okay, what is next that I can compensate with? Things like that. Because you really have to think 10 steps ahead when it comes to high-profile talents. And at the same time, these high-profile talents, you don't want to have beef with them, because if they say, you know what, I'm done with this, somebody will just pick them up easily.
Sure.
You know, somebody next door will just, okay, you know what, come to me right now. So you really have to be nice to them. Yes, you get into arguments with them, but you really have to be, okay, high-profile talent is like arguing with your wife. You really have to be politically correct sometimes, and you don't want to hurt their feelings at the same time, you know. So these are the kind of things that you have to go through.
Do you face any of these challenges? Probably not quite in the same way, Justine, I imagine, but nevertheless, you're talking to some of these personalities, these rugby guys and so on,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they have egos, though, right?
Well, weirdly, I think we should make a rule where radio only has former sports, athletes as presenters, because one of the really interesting things about those two are, because they've been elite athletes, they ask for the feedback. They ask for the air checks all the time. They want to know what they did wrong, to make it better, or they want to know what they did right, so they do it again. It's really interesting because that's how they've just always done their training and their sports.
That's one of the problems, I think, with talent. Sorry to jump in, but you know, the higher profile the talent, the less easy it is to give feedback, and to some extent, they won't ask for it. I've certainly found that on for the radio guys. And Rizal, have you found that?
I think they're fragile. I think it's a lot putting yourself out there every day for praise, but also criticism as a presenter. I think it is a hard job. And so I think that some presenters, not all presenters, but some presenters are kind of fragile. And so that can be kind of tricky to...
So giving them criticism can be a problem, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or...
Even positive criticism.
Or I just think you have to give effective feedback.
Yeah.
Really effective feedback. That doesn't threaten, that is about getting them, you're here, this is going to get you to here.
So do you guys find that you have to sort of big them up first and then say, oh, that was fantastic, but by the way, could you tweak this bit a bit? Is there an element of that?
Yeah, that's normally what we do, because we pick on the good points first. Let them think that, okay, you know what, I'm doing this, I'm okay, I'm doing a good job. However, there are certain things that we want you to change, we want you to fix that here and there. And at the same time, that's why when it comes to high-profile talents, normally the senior managers will deal with them, because the senior managers are the ones that have the skills or the experience in dealing with high-profile talents. They know how to handle them. They know the right words to tell them, and they have this kind of authority figure or some kind of trust that these talents see in them. So if you are telling me something for me to fix, if it comes from you, that means it's something that I really need to fix. So that's why normally high-profile talents, the senior managers will handle them.
We'll deal with it.
Yeah.
If anybody has any questions, by the way, we've only got a few minutes left, so do have a think. If you want to ask either of these guys who manage a lot of talent for some tips, perhaps, please let us know in a second. I'll come to you in just a second. In your minds, you've talked a little bit about some of your presenters, Justine, but either of you, are there particular talent that you could sort of identify to us, maybe not tell us the name, but what are the issues? Can you think it through? Maybe a couple of problems that you've had with that particular talent. Can you think of an example?
One of our presenters just went through a bit of a weird phase of really bad anxiety going on air. So they could get on air. That was fine.
Sort of panic attack kind of thing?
Yeah. And I could hear it, because someone's having a bit of a panic attack, their breath goes. And so they would be speaking and they're like halfway through a sentence, they'd need to breathe. And I was like, that's
something odd.
Something's going on there. And they were just really nervous, just all of a sudden. It was very strange. And I think, if you've dealt with feeling anxious or having a panic attack before, it's like, well, are you breathing? Like it sounds silly, but we'd go through a bunch of breath work, and then that person would sit down to present. And being a nervous person, energy person myself, I move around, I use my hands, I stand up, I walk, and when I used to present, I would stand up, and it was as simple as working through that and going, you need to stand up so you can fling your arms around and get rid of some of that nervous energy. And they did it, and it fixed the problem.
You can think of an example of something that's somebody...
There is this one high-profile talent. Actually, there's been a couple, but this is one just recently. The show is being sponsored by a client. This client sponsored the show because the client is a fan of this high-profile talent. So this radio show has 3 people. The 2 talents in the show have no issues mentioning the client's name. But the high-profile talent does not want to mention the client's name, even though the show is being sponsored, because to him, whatever comes out from his mouth is very valuable. So you need to pay me extra, or you need to make sure that it is something it is something that is valuable for me to mention it. So, but the client is always asking, can he mention my brand name? Can he mention, because I sponsored the show? So it's it's still a battle. We are still trying to figure out how to do this, because at the same time, we do not want to hurt the talent, or if I force it down his throat, he can mention it, but then again, he will not have a good show. Or he might just say, you know what, I'm done with this, I want to go somewhere else. Because the talent also brings value to our ratings. So this is where we are, it's mind-boggling. We are trying to balance between these two. So we told the client, look, we have these other two announcers, radio announcers. They will keep on mentioning it. And of course, we will give the client some extra features here and there just to make things up.
But you can feel the frustration from the client, can't you? The client really wants the star to say the name, right?
But the client is still, I mean, they are happy with the sponsorship still, because it brings them results in their sales. But this was just a small gesture that the client was asking. The client was not really forcing it, but the client did say it would be a great gesture if he were to mention it. And of course, I might just secure another 5 years of sponsorship. You know, but then again, it's
Maybe
something
AI
that we need
will
to...
fix that.
Sorry?
Just AI. Just clone it. That's a joke. Don't do that.
Well, AI, we talked about quite a bit on the previous panel. Maybe not get into that now, unless there's no questions. Anybody like a question? There's a question right at the back there from Corey. Have we got a microphone? The microphone is here.
Thank you both for your insight. It's been fascinating. I wanted to know about one other person that comes into the mix when guiding talent, and that is agents. How do you best keep agents at bay and in the conversation when you need them and out of the conversation when you don't?
Is that something you deal with?
No, actually in Malaysia we don't have agents for
So we should
talents.
all move to Malaysia.
Yeah.
We deal with them directly. They have managers, but we actually speak to the talent directly.
And you kind of insist on that, do you?
Actually, no, it's just
a thing, right?
It's just a thing in Malaysia. We don't have agents. We don't have talent agents.
Because I think around the world it seems to be that the higher profile the talent, the more likely it is that they'll have an intermediary. Do you have this issue?
Yeah. I mean, I shudder. Ooh, agents. Ooh. Get really nervous. But I think for me, it's always been a case-by-case basis with the agents, because most agents I have found are okay. There are a few where I go, who's your agent? And then I say it, and I go, oh, gosh. Oh, that makes me scared. But I think it's much like building the trust of the presenter. I just try to build the trust of the agent, and it doesn't always work.
Corey, is this a particular problem for you at ARN? Is this something that you deal with every day?
I think it's just a trust thing, and I don't know. Look, it's really tricky, and especially at the ABC where you're not extremely flush with the cash, and that's sometimes what it comes down to. So for me, it's always about, well, what else do I offer this person? Your person, the person that you're looking after.
Well, sometimes I mean agents deal with the awkward questions, don't they? And generally, it's the money side of things. I think that the talent perhaps doesn't want to ask for the 20% increase or whatever it is, and maybe that's sort of the role of the agent. Yeah. And I guess as managers, one tries to cut them out because you don't really want to have that conversation. Yeah.
That's right. And I think most of the time we probably do the same as what you do, and that is try and deal with it at the talent, at the presenter level, hoping it doesn't get back to an agent level, because if it's gotten back to there, then sometimes that can be a problem. But then sometimes people just aren't good at communicating and they just want their agent to deal with it.
Yeah. Paul, who's our host here, is a talent. He's at Boom Radio in the UK. Do you have these problems, Paul? From the talent side, do you suffer from problems being talent?
Oh, I've suffered from problems managing talent, particularly at Radio 1.
You've been both sides of the...
Yeah. But I mean, I think if you are on the air, you've always got that vulnerability, haven't you? There's always that sense of you want to be liked and you want someone to tell you your show was great. And if they don't say anything, you go, oh, there's been no feedback. I mean, you just never get... I'm sure you're the same. I mean, you know, when I do stuff on your show, I say to you, was it okay, James? And you go, no, it's crap.
Well, we all need to give feedback. Any final closing comments? We're almost out of time, really, but anything you want to say in closing, Justine?
What I would say is that we very rarely we never get that blank slate, and sometimes it's actually good to imagine a blank slate and where would you start. And at the end of each year, we've got the ABC does commissioning every year, which I'm sure most of you do, and I have actually continued to employ that strategy where I go, what's the blank slate and what does this network look like next year if you were starting with a blank slate?
Closing words, Rizal?
Well, the thing is, when you do strategy, especially when it comes to talent, you really need to know what you're talking about. You have to be 5 steps ahead, 10 steps ahead, because, like for example, Corey's question about agents, if you really know what you're talking about, you can dictate the agent, not the agent who dictates you. So if you know what you're talking about, then the agent will be like, okay, I cannot fool around with this guy, I cannot play around with this guy, he knows his stuff. So that is one thing that you really need. I mean, it's across the board for everything, but when it comes to talents, when you know your stuff, the talents have trust in you, and they will be with you, they will be loyal to you.
Well, that's a good note to finish on. Rizal Sahini from Astro Audio, Justine Kelly from the ABC, many thanks for joining us today on the panel. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Thank you, James.